Angelique. So, thank you so much for having me. I'm really happy to have the opportunity to tell you a little bit about my ideas, what I've been working on for the last years, and how I also think that we can use this situation, the strange situation that we're in, that is creating a lot of insecurity and anxiety, but also creating new opportunities. And I actually want to show you my ideas how we can turn this situation also into a stepping stone for a better future. I'm using the term smart working in this presentation, and I will also explain you a little bit later what my definition or my umbrella term definition of this term is. So thank you so much for the. I will do a short introduction about who I am. So I am Angelique Slob. I am from the Netherlands. Originally, I've been location independent for the last few years. I actually just came back from Brazil to the Netherlands just before all the flights got cancelled. So I'm at the moment in Amsterdam, and I did celebrate a little bit of Easter because some of my friends were free, and I wanted to. They invited me for some Easter celebrations today. So what I do, I'm an entrepreneur as the founder of Hello Monday Club. I'm also an organizational sociologist. I'm speaking about the future of work. I work as an HR strategist and also call myself future of work catalyst because I'm helping companies to open up their long-term vision and also create long-term strategies to next generation organizations. My background is HR, so I've been working in a lot of high-profile companies as an HR professional for probably over 15 years. Which I did a lot as interim manager. So I've seen a lot of high-profile, innovative companies from the position of HR director, HR manager. And since the last 3-4 years, I work mainly as a consultant. I founded Hello Monday Club in 2018. The company, we are actually helping companies towards a better future, the next generation organization. And Hello Monday has the idea, the brand is actually giving you the feeling that Monday is a day that is no longer something to dread. And it's really like what Enrique says, because it also translates in that idea of work-life integration, where just the work week is a part of your life and not so much something separated that we have to go through before the life actually starts again. So today's topic, how smart working can help your company. Basically in this crisis, I'm sure there's been a lot of said, you've been reading, we all have the opportunity to work from home in a distributed setup over the last week. But I want to bring that a little bit further, and maybe you can relate to the experience that you have done in the last couple of weeks. But I think the first thing, the two important things is business continuity. The business we might have a recession coming up, so I think it's very important to look beyond the horizon and say how can we keep the business going, but at the same time ensure employee well-being, their performance, their engagement, and their mental health. It's not only for now. I think the interventions that you do now should also be helping your company on the long term, because it is everything you do, all the interventions, all the change, all the learning is currently an investment. I came across this image, this tweet, and I wanted to show you because I think that we should also be aware that today's situation is not representative for remote or flexible work. We are dealing with a crisis. And as an HR manager, as an HR professional, it's very important to understand that there is a crisis management going on where you have to aim, but at the same time, you are responsible for the long-term organizational development. So combining those two, it's very important. I want to bring you a little bit back to what I've been studying. I told you I was an organizational sociologist, and during that study, I really did a deep dive into management paradigms, organizational concepts, and mainly focusing on innovative knowledge workers, innovative professionals that you see in a lot of companies where people work online, technology companies, innovative companies, but also more or less professionals. So the dominant management paradigm in the Western world that we had for over 100 years, it's based on Taylorism, it's based on Ford, is the 8-hour workday, 40 hours a week. There's a lot of, in practice, a lot of people that have let go of this fixed idea, but still in most countries you can see this in labor law. It is the default labor law system where we are programmed to think into an 8-hour workday mindset. We are programmed to think about time and presence as work is something that you do. We are programmed to think that work is done in specific time frames, and that is usually the 9-to-5 mindset. We are used to have that idea that we sell labor or time. It means we sell 40 hours a week, and I'm supposed to work 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week for my boss who is telling me what I should be doing. It's where we come from, and if you think about it, there's a lot of little things that can show you that we are very programmed, and it is a part of our subconscious. I also want you to remember that 8-hour workday is optimized for repetitive manual work. It's not the optimized workday for a knowledge worker. I always say if Henry Ford were to come back from the grave, he would really redesign the workplace differently. And he would probably tell you that you should have a 4 to 6 hour work day instead of a 8-hour work day, because that is the maximum time that a knowledge worker is very productive, and otherwise you will just pay them for time that is not so productive anymore. So knowledge workers have different needs. It's basically, I did this when I did my master thesis research, I dived into this, the organizational context, management style, culture and structure for knowledge workers. It's just 4 bullets from the whole master thesis, but I want you to remember that they need a lot of high autonomy to be able to thrive, to do their work. They need a higher goal, as knowing where to go for the direction, a culture of trust, so there's high trust, and space for creativity. The difference between the other mindset, the other old management paradigm, and the paradigm that you need for knowledge workers is that a knowledge worker is not selling their time or their labor, but they're selling their brains. They're selling their expertise, they're selling their connections, they're selling their energy, they're selling their drive, they're selling their creativity. And that is something you cannot manage in a traditional way or catch into a certain time of hours. So for today, I want to get this message very across that change is necessary, not only for effective crisis management, but also for a more successful company in the long term. Because what you can do today to help your employees and your company through this crisis will also help you in the long term to create a more agile and resilient company. SmartWorking. It is a umbrella term that I'm using as a description for a certain way to look at work. It is remote working. That has been the theme for many webinars, posts, the crisis management, looking at distributed, looking at remote. But it's a little bit more than that. It's also flexible working, and with flexible, I mean in terms of time, schedules, but also hours. It is specific allocation of talent, so it is letting go of a job description and a full-time employee who does a certain collection of different kind of tasks, but looking at which task can be done by whom, and it could be a group of freelancers doing that remotely instead of one person sitting in your office who is doing like a lot of different specialities. It's flash teams. Flash teams are teams that come together very quickly to work on a specific challenge, usually remote, and that also, like, after the project is done, they just disappear, the talent, and the people move on. It's based on work on projects or sprints, and it's very, very result driven. So it is basically very different. It's almost an opposite paradigm as that time and presence 8-hour workday, where people do these repetitive tasks in a full-time employment position. So I wanted to explain why smart working as a crisis strategy can help you right now. It will help you to align and to focus on the key results that are necessary for your business continuity. So you can basically say, okay, this is important for us to achieve for the next month, the next 2 months, or this quarter, and make sure that the employees have the focus on that. They might be overwhelmed because of the situation. There might be anxiety. There might be a lot of insecurity. People need to move to a new way of working very, very quickly and unexpected and involuntarily. Keep that mindset on the key results to help your business forward. Maximize the flexibility in schedules. And why is that important? Because people will have to juggle different kind of responsibilities. And having that idea that you want your employee to be available in certain time slots, or expecting them to work, to be attending different kind of meetings during the day, it's going to be more difficult for them to realize that. To maximize an asynchronous communication is also important here, because that means that your employees can have that flexibility and make their own time. So some people maybe want to get up really, really early and get a bunch of work done, and maybe later in the day or later in the evening also get some work done. And other people might, really want to stick to a 9-to-5 routine. And some other people want to have like maybe a few different time slots a day. And I think that's a very important to give that flexibility. This will help you. Combination of those interventions will help you with productivity, so people will stay more productive and give them mental health and the well-being. And it will, as I said, the key results that are critical for the business are more likely to be met. From an employee perspective, they can work, they can focus on the results. They can save time, especially if we have less meetings, and they can work a little bit more effectively. I don't know what is your experience, but when I moved away from the office, I noticed that I actually got more work done, because during the day you lose a lot of effective time. Basically, it is going to a meeting. It is a colleague that walks in, that gives you, that asks you something. You go for a walk, you go for coffee. There's a lot of things happening that fill the day, but that are not really the effective working time. So give people maximum flexibility that they need in this moment, and so they have space for other responsibilities. How to make this work? Let go of the idea of availability during the office hours. So that might be the hardest thing to do. Those both, I think the two top ones might be something that are the most counterintuitive for a lot of people, a lot of managers, and a lot of HR, because we are programmed that this is what we expect from people. We pay them for 40 hours, so they should be working 40 hours, and that is usually between certain time slots. I want to tell you about a friend of mine from Brazil who told me that he said, Angelique, I'm not fit to be an employee. So I quit and I became a freelancer. And I was like, so but why were you not fit to be an employee? He said, I love to work like in 3 days in a row in one sprint and get all my work done. And then I want to spend a lot of my time at the beach. And he was supposed to show up every day between 9 to 5. So he couldn't follow his own schedule. So he quit, he became a freelancer, and now the same company is hiring him for the same work as a freelancer, and there is no problem. And I love to tell that story because it really gives that idea, like how we are thinking that employees need to work in certain time slots and be available for us. Well, it's actually the results that count. As a manager, encourage people to have a compressed workday. Just say, okay, you don't have time for commuting. You are actually getting probably the same amount of work done that is key for us in less hours, maybe in 4 hours, maybe in 5 hours, maybe in 6 hours. But please take that other time to take care of yourself, to take care of your family, to find your own new working rhythm. Follow up on the results. So make sure that the results that you want them to achieve are being met. And be a coach or a mentor in that area. Ask them what they need, how they manage, how they handle their work-life balance, the different responsibilities, how they are staying connected with their employees, how they know what to do. Just all the questions as a manager, but see yourself more as a coach or mentor to help people through this time. Trust and safety are key. The psychological safety for people to know that it's okay to work in certain time frames, to find their own rhythm, to manage their own energy, and that it's okay to say to people, sorry, I can't attend that meeting because this is the time I have to spend homeschooling, or I'm just really want to focus on getting the work done in the hours that I have available. And I think that should be emphasized from a management perspective. And as an HR, you are facilitating that. You are helping people to come to that point, to help that as a management style. So if we look a little bit forward beyond the crisis, at this moment, maybe for most of the companies, this wasn't a conscious decision. It's very involuntary, but your company is now investing in a very steep learning curve. It is a huge investment. People are moving suddenly in a very different way of working, especially if you would combine at least some of the elements of this smart working, what we are talking about today. It's a big investment, but it's also critical because it can help your company really for a better future. So see this as a way to find the ways to maximize the opportunities for remote and more flexible work on the long term, and see what are the opportunities for us as a company, and how can we embrace new ways of working, and how can we translate this to new ways of working. And it could be very small. I spoke to a manager and she said, well, we have one employee who's normally not in the office because they live a little bit further away. But we do the stand-up. We always we had all the post-its at the wall, and we showed the laptop. And now we use an online tool, and actually, we'll be keeping using that. So sometimes it's a very small practical thing, but it could also be a more bigger thing that has more to do with the organizational context, HR policies, or anything else. But really try to find those things, and you can say, okay, this is what we can implement, this is what we can keep for our organization to move forward. Embracing modern management paradigms. A modern management paradigm, there's many modern management paradigms that are just as older than the industrial paradigm that we are usually thinking about, but see it as a different way, maybe for your company, a new way of looking at management. What does it mean for us to be a leader while we are now used to working in a distributed setting, where we can see that once we focus on the results, we actually get the same results, but the people work less hours. What does it mean for us, and how can we lead our company? How can we as leaders, as managers, change and look different in our own expectations of management and leadership to change to the future, to a better future? So these are my tips to move forward, to implement this in your organization. I hope that a lot of people also will realize that It's not easy, but at the same time, it's an amazing and an exciting learning period. It's an almost worldwide experiment that is being we are being forced in, and people are very adaptive. People are very resilient, and you see a lot of people already adapting so amazingly quickly in organizations, moving to lessons learned. And I'm not sure how many organizations will think are trying to go back to like the old normal, but I think for many organizations they're going to be looking at what is the new normal. Now we've been through this learning curve as a company. At the same time, it's a work in progress, and to do it right, evaluate the results and the lessons learned, and keep on moving. And as an HR person, as an HR professional, it's one of the most important tasks that you might have at this moment or the future, to say what is happening, what are the results. And with the results, I mean not the business results, but the outcomes, the employee experience. How do we perceive this? What were the things, the bottlenecks? What is the engagement? How do people, do we have a lot of people that love to work fully distributed, or do we have a lot of people that actually really miss the office and want to come back and, you know, look at us to keep on providing an office space? Look very, very closely what's happening in your organization, and see what you can learn and how you can translate that to the new normal or the new way of working beyond this crisis. I think you should do that based on high trust. We can do this together. So it's the CEO doesn't know what's going to happen in the new future. The HR director doesn't really know what's going to happen. We are in a situation that almost nobody is like, okay, we have not been in this situation. We don't know. We don't have experience from the past. But it's something we will do together with the employees. We will take their experience and their expectations, and create our new policies and a new way of working around that. I would say keep on investing in a magical employee experience. It's very important that the people, especially if you're going to stay more distributed, more flexible, more results driven, it's very important that people create that employee experience. And I'm sure in this series of workshops, you get so many tips and trips and tools to use to create that employee experience and focus on that. I know sometimes it's really hard to get the other stakeholders of the company on board from an HR point of view, the things you want to create from an HR point of view. So I've put this in. There might be, a lot of people say there's a recession coming after this period. I think it's very likely that companies need to cut back on costs. And I would say after this learning experience, really try to see if you can cut back on office costs, minimize the office, and not on layoffs from people as opposed to layoffs from people, which is the more traditional way of looking at cost reductions. But the office, the real estate, and also the costs, as in lease cars, travel expenses, you can cut down on those costs if you say, okay, we are now already used to a more distributed remote setup. So stay on that path and invest in people and not in things. Well, I hope this all will help you to lead. This should lead you towards a better future, a more agile future. I love the hummingbird because I think it's the ultimate symbol of agility. It's a bird that, for the people that don't know, it's the only bird that can fly backwards and sidewards. And it also goes from, I think it visits 1,000 flowers a day. So it's like the bird that is not stuck in one place, but it goes everywhere. It helps. It takes from different projects, from different flowers, and it moves around very agile. And it just adjusts to everything that's happening. And I think that might be one of the most important lessons from this crisis. As a company, it is important to be agile, to be resilient, to be innovative, and to be able to create an amazing employee experience. I'm sure that some of the tips that I shared today can help you with that.